Hungarian Folk Tales. The Man with the Heart of Stone. Once upon a time, in a distant land beyond the hills, there lived a poor old woman who had 3 handsome sons. One day the young men decided to set out in search of maidens from other lands to take as wives, for in their village they found not a single one to their liking. And as they ambled and rambled, their path took them through a vast forest, where they saw a small cottage and went inside. "Blessings of the Lord on you, old man," said the youths. "Would you give us lodging for the night?" "I will gladly give you lodging." So the young men stayed for the night, and in the morning the old man said, "Good men, your path has brought you to me, and when you return, it will bring you to my home again. I gave you shelter, and in return I ask that you bring me a beautiful maiden whom I can take to be my wife." The 3 young men thought, "A young maiden for this old man? The greybeard can barely hobble along." But they kept these thoughts to themselves and tried to hide their laughter. The 3 youths travelled to distant lands as they had planned and entered into the service of the king. The king had 3 beautiful, strong daughters. The youths served so well and fought so bravely that the king grew fond of them. So he gave them his daughters to be their wives. With great joy, the youths brought their wives home, but on their way, they had to cross through the vast forest where the old man lived. When they came to his cottage, they greeted him. "Blessings of the Lord on you, old man. Blessings of the Lord on you. You were gone for a long time. I see you have found yourselves lovely wives. But where, pray tell, is my maiden to wed?" The young men said, "We did not bring you a maiden to wed." "You did not bring me a maiden to wed? Then I will turn you all to stone, and only one maiden will remain to be my wife." And as he spoke, the young man and the 2 girls turned to stone. One maiden remained, whom he kept by his side. She swept, cooked, and cried all day. One day the old man was in very high spirits. The maiden said to him, "Kind old man, why did you turn them to stone?" "Because my heart is made of stone too." "And where is your stone heart?" "It is there, between the bed sheets." The old man left the cottage and went wandering in the forest. The maiden picked dozens of flowers and wove a beautiful garland, which she placed on the bed. In the evening, when the old man returned, he began to laugh and cackle. "Why did you put that garland on the sheets?" "Because I wanted your stone heart to know joy, so I made a lovely garland." The old man laughed heartily. "I can see you are a kind-hearted girl. You thought my stone heart was in the bedsheets, did you not? Ah, but it is not." "Then tell me where it is, kind old man," the maiden pleaded. "Listen closely. In the middle of the vast forest, there is a huge rock, and in the rock there is a little bird, and my heart is in that little bird. If someone smashes the rock, catches the bird, and takes from it my heart, then I will have my heart again." The girl sank into thought. "Oh Lord, what man can do that?" Many years passed, and the poor old woman was still waiting for her 3 sons to return home. She thought surely they had died, and another son was born to her, and he grew up to a boy 12 years of age. "Dear mother," he said one day, "do I have neither brothers nor sisters?" With great sorrow in her voice, the old woman told him that he had had 3 brothers, and they had travelled to distant lands in search of maidens to marry, but they had never returned. "Well," he said, "prepare me for the trip, and I will set out to find them." The poor woman gave her youngest son food for the trip, and, weeping bitter tears, she bid him farewell. He set out on his way, and after he had travelled far, he sat down to eat and said, "Anyone who is hungry, come join me." Suddenly a ram with tremendous horns on its head came out from the forest. "You summoned me, young man. I am here." The young man treated the ram to a feast. And when they had eaten their fill, the ram said, "Take a hair of mine, and should you find yourself in danger, I will come to your aid." The young man continued on his way and eventually sat down to eat once more and said, "Is there anyone here? For I have a little food left." And a dove alighted on his shoulder. "Come and eat with me. Take a feather of mine, and should you find yourself in danger, I will come to your aid." The young man continued on his way, and he eventually found himself at the cottage where the stone-hearted man lived. So he knocked on the door, but the man wasn't at home, only his wife. "Good evening, and what brings you to this distant place, young man?" The young man replied, "I set out to see distant lands, and you? Do you live alone in this little cottage?" "I am not alone," replied the maiden. "An old man lives here too, but now he's wandering in the forest." And then the maiden spoke of her grief, of the men and the maidens turned to stone statues, and she also spoke of how the old man could get his heart back. The young man set out to find the great rock, and when he came upon it, he sighed, "If only that battering ram were here, he would smash this rock for me." And magically the ram appeared and butted the rock once, twice with his tremendous horns and smashed it to pieces. "Now all I need is the dove to catch the little bird," he sighed, and magically the dove alighted again on his shoulder, and there and then it caught the little bird. The youth took it in his hand and returned to the cottage, and as he approached, the old man said to the maiden, "Oh, my dear girl, I do not know what is happening to me, but I feel great warmth, and my chest seems to beat again." And as the youth drew close to the cottage, the old man began to shed tears. "Old man, I bring you back your heart." The old man put the heart of the little bird where his heart once had been, and it beat again as it had beaten before. Then the maiden spoke. "Now, old man, bring those statues back to life. Let them know joy again." The old man brought them back to life. They paid him thanks, embraced one another, and set off homeward bound. They celebrated with a huge wedding feast, and they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. Butcher Boy George. Once upon a time, in a land far, far beyond the hills, there lived a youth named Butcher Boy George. You could travel the length and breadth of the land, visit 7 villages, and never find his match. So strong was the boy that he needed no meat cleaver. He could kill a bull with his bare hands. One day, Butcher Boy George decided to bid farewell. So he said goodbye to his father and his mother, and he set out to see the world. He rambled and ambled across the lands, and on the 7th day of his journey, he arrived at the edge of a huge, dark forest. He looked to the left, he looked to the right, to see if perhaps he could espy the glow of a campfire, and indeed, he suddenly saw the shimmer of flames flickering between the trees. He set out towards the fire, but then thought better of it, for he feared that perhaps the fire had been lit by bandits. But hardly had he taken a step, and again the glow of the flames flickered in front of him. Again he turned to the left, he turned to the right, but no matter which way he turned, the shimmer of the campfire always followed his gaze. "Oh," said Butcher Boy George, "come what may, I will not turn away any more like a sheep trying to flee the wolves." And he went straight in the direction of the fire. When he reached the fire, he saw an old woman poking at its coals, trying to kindle their glow. He greeted her. "Good evening, good woman." "Good evening to you, my boy. What brings you to this distant forest?" "I'm searching for lodging, good woman. If only I could find a place to rest my head." "I could give you a place to rest your head, but I must warn you that every night demons come to my house at the first stroke of midnight. and they bring grief to anyone they find. I do not fear, good woman. I only want a warm bed for the night. The rest is my concern. The old woman mumbled something to herself, blinked with her falcon-like eyes, led the boy to his room, made his bed, and left him there. The boy went to bed, and he soon fell asleep. But he did not sleep long, for at the first stroke of midnight the demons began knocking at the doors and windows, making such a clatter that the whole house began to shake. Even Butcher Boy John felt frightened by this. Leaping from his bed, he took his stick in his hand and waited to see what would happen. Suddenly the door gave a mighty creak, a tremendous chest flew into the room, a long walking stick popped out of the chest, wearing a red cap on its end, and lunged at Butcher Boy George. But Butcher Boy George knew a thing or two about demons. He knocked the red hat from the end of the walking stick, the hat rolled under the bed, and as all the demon's strength was held in this hat, the walking stick too quickly took refuge under the bed. So Butcher Boy George leapt out the door, turned to make the sign of the cross on it so that the demon would be trapped, and withdrew to hide out on the porch. Meanwhile, day was beginning to break outside. Cockerels had begun to crow, and the demons returned to their realm. As soon as the demons had departed, Butcher Boy George went into the old woman's kitchen. You cannot imagine the spectacle that awaited him there. The fire was blazing high, and its flames licked at the bottom of a soot-black cauldron of boiling tar. In front of the fireplace, a beautiful young maiden sat stirring the tar and sobbing to herself. Why are you crying, gentle maiden? Oh, my poor soul, the maiden replied. Alas, I have good reason to sob. I stir this boiling tar for my own weak body. And who told you to do this? Asked Butcher Boy George. The old woman who took you in. She hired me as a cleaning girl, but she did not need a cleaning girl. In truth, she seeks to make a witch of me. But since I refuse to become a witch, she will burn my body to ashes and dust in this boiling tar. Fie, cried Butcher Boy George. I will put a stop to this. Do not fear, gentle maiden. Just keep stirring the tar and blowing the coals that they glow red hot beneath the cauldron, for the tar will be the witch's bathwater, not yours. Then suddenly the old witch arrived and she asked the girl, Has the tar come to the boil? It has, old woman, it has. And you? Do you want to be a witch? I do not, answered the maiden. I ask you for a second time. Do you want to be a witch? I do not. I ask you for a third and last time. Do you want to be a witch? And I answer for the third time. I do not. Oh, you wretched maiden, into the cauldron with you. But Butcher Boy George had heard quite enough. He leapt out from behind the door, took the witch in his hands, spun her in the air, and tossed her into the cauldron of boiling tar. In the blink of an eye, her body sizzled to ash. And now, gentle maiden, the world is ours, said Butcher Boy George. Come with me, and we shall be man and wife forevermore. The girl wasted no more time, for the brave butcher boy had won her heart. But before they departed, they went to the cellar, where there was enough gold and silver for every village in the land. They gathered as much silver and gold as they could and left the rest, that others might have some too. And together they lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Miraculous Bird. Once upon a time, in a distant land, Where the curly-tailed pig digs at the soil with its snout, there lived a penniless man. He was so poor that his daily meal consisted of nothing more than the things he was able to gather together in the woods and the meadows. Once, when he was trying to catch a bird for his lunch, he caught a very beautiful crow. The bird was as black as night, yet its feathers shone like the stars. The man took the crow home, and his children were delighted. They put it in a cage and kept it and cared for it. The crow grew, and eventually it became so tame that it ate from their hands and hopped about the room. One day a wanderer passed by. He looked at the bird, took it in his hands, and happened to look under its wings. Underneath its left wing was written that whoever ate of the bird's liver would become a king. Under its right wing was written that whoever ate of its heart would find 3 gold coins underneath his pillow every day. Now, who doesn't want to be a king? So the wanderer resolved not to rest until it had eaten the bird's liver. The poor man also saw the writing, but he did not know how to read. So he asked the wanderer what it said. "Alas, nothing good," he said. "This bird will die in 2 days. It would be better to kill it now. I happen to like the taste of crow, so if you roast it, I will give you 1,000 gold coins for the meat." So the wanderer placed the money on the table. The poor man regretted having to kill the poor animal, but he was in dire need of money. He didn't think much about it, but simply slayed the bird and roasted its meat. As the meat of the bird was roasting, the poor man left the kitchen for a moment. The children were playing around, and as they were hungry, they snatched the heart and the liver from the pan. When they placed the meat of the crow in front of the wanderer, surely enough he could find neither the heart nor the liver. He was furious. "Hey, you wretched man, where is its heart? Where is its liver?" But neither heart nor liver were to be found. Well, not having found the heart, the wanderer realized that he would never become king. He jumped up, not having eaten a single bite, and left. The poor man despaired. He regretted all the money he had lost. So he told his sons that they should vanish from his sight and not return until they had gotten all the money back. How the 2 sons worried, but what could they have done? They set out to find the 1,000 pieces of gold. They ambled and rambled with heavy hearts, until around sunset they arrived at the edge of a large forest. There they spent the night. When they awoke the next morning, a soldier was happening by. He gave them directions to the town, and the 2 boys set off. The king, it turned out, had very recently died. When they arrived in the town, they saw a beautiful golden bench. The older boy sat down on it, and the younger lay down underneath it, and they both immediately fell asleep. The next day, they awoke to the sounds of a large crowd of people who had gathered around them and were cheering them enthusiastically. The people took the 2 boys to the palace. The one who had eaten the crow's liver was immediately chosen as king, As it so happens, according to the customs of the town, anyone who didn't know that the old king had died and sat down on the golden bench would be chosen as the new king. They had had a total of 7 kings, each of whom had been chosen according to this custom. So this is how the older boy became king, and never again did either boy have cares or worries, for the older boy ruled as king, and the younger boy found 3 gold coins under his pillow every morning. Their father, in the meantime, deeply regretted having chased his sons away, so he set out to find them. By the time he reached the town, he had become so poor that he was forced to beg. He made his way to the palace, and the king immediately recognized him, and he ran to his younger brother. The younger son was also delighted, and they both embraced their father. Of course, they were not angry with him, but they were a little ashamed that he looked so dishevelled. They took him to a cobbler and a tailor and had beautiful clothes and boots made for him, and they let him stay with them at their new palace. And together they lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. A fox seeks shelter. Once upon a time, there lived a wily fox. The old fox was hungry, and so he took a sack and left his home. He walked and walked until the sky grew dark, and he stood outside the house of a rich farmer. He knocked hard on the door, and when asked who was there, he replied, "I'm a poor traveller in need of shelter for the night. Will you take pity on me?" The rich farmer had a good heart, and so did his wife. They let the fox come in and offered him supper. "Kind sir, are there no thieves around the house? I have a fine fat cockerel in my sack, and I wouldn't like to have it taken in the night." "Worry not, Mr. Fox. Nothing has been stolen in my house. You can sleep in peace." "Oh, poor me, my fine fat cockerel has been stolen." They all searched high and low, but no one could find the cockerel anywhere. The rich farmer was so ashamed that a guest of his had been robbed, and he felt sorry for the old fox as it wailed and moaned. But what could he do? He gave the fox a fine fat cockerel of his own and wished him well. So the fox left with a grateful grin on his whiskered face. He walked and walked until the sky grew dark and knocked hard on the door of a second farm. Good people lived in this house, and he was welcomed once more. As they were about to go to bed, the fox began to scour the room as if searching for thieves. "Kind sir, let me tell you that I have a fine fat goose in my sack, and I wouldn't like it to be stolen in the night." "Worry not, Mr. Fox. Nothing has been stolen in my house. You can sleep in peace." The fox waited for these fine folk to fall asleep, and he opened the sack. And what was in the sack? Why, the cockerel, of course. He took the fat fowl out and ate it all up, feathers and all. poor me, my fine fat goose has been stolen. They all searched high and low, but no one could find the goose anywhere. The farmer then gave the old fox a fine fat goose of his own to stop him crying and moaning so. He walked and walked until the sky grew dark, and he stood outside a third house. He knocked again, was let in again, but before they went to bed, he turned to the farmer and said, "I've put my sack here under the bench, kind sir, but I can't rest in my bed because I should tell you, kind sir, that I have got a fine fat piglet in it." "You can sleep in peace, Mr. Fox," the farmer assured him. "No matter what is in your sack, there will be no trouble here." "Oh, poor me, my fine fat piglet has been stolen." They all searched high and low, but no one could find the piglet anywhere. What else could the farmer do but give the fox a fine fat piglet of his own? When the sky grew dark that night, the fox knocked at another door. They let him in, and again he said the same before they went to sleep. "Kind sir, please look out for thieves this night, for I have a fine fat pig in my sack, and I wouldn't like it to be stolen." The farmer glanced at the sack and saw that it had no fine fat pig inside, and knew from its squeals that it was only a piglet. But the wily fox didn't go to sleep. He ate the piglet up, curly tail and all. As soon as the sun rose, the fox began to moan, "Oh, poor me, my fine fat pig has been stolen." The farmer immediately saw the trick and pretended to feel sorry for the old fox. "Don't be so sad, and don't wake the village with your moaning. I'll give you 2 fat pigs instead of 1. Give me your sack so I can put them into it outside." The master went outside with the sack. He had 2 hungry foxhounds. He put them into the fox's sack, tied it up, gave it to the fox, and wished him well. When the wily old fox opened the sack, he saw no pigs. And what should jump out of the sack but the 2 hungry foxhounds? The fox ran as fast as his red legs could carry him. He forgot about his belly and wanted to save his furry hide. But the hungry foxhounds caught hold of his tail and tore him to shreds. If they hadn't, my story would never end. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Pork Pudding. Once upon a time, there lived a man who had a pig. The pig grew very big and fat, so the man decided to slaughter it for food. By the time spring came, the man and his family had eaten everything but the pork pudding. One day, the man went to tend his vines while his wife and 3 daughters stayed at home to cook supper. The wife told the eldest daughter, "Go up into the attic and fetch the pork pudding, my girl, and we'll cook it for your father's supper." The eldest girl did as she was told and was about to cut the pork pudding down when it spoke to her. "What do you want? You won't eat me, because I'll eat you first." And with these words, it ate the girl up. The wife could not imagine why her daughter had not come back down with the pork pudding. So she sent the second eldest daughter up to the attic to fetch it. But the fat pork pudding ate the second daughter up as well. So the wife sent the youngest girl up to fetch the pork pudding. But the youngest daughter did no better than her sisters, and the bulging pork pudding ate her up too. The wife could not imagine what had happened to her three darling daughters. "Well, I shall see for myself," she said, and went up into the roof. When she saw the size of the enormous pork pudding, she was pleased. But when she tried to cut the pork pudding down, it ate her up in a single mouthful. That evening, the man returned home from his vines to find no one at home to cook his supper. There was no supper on the stove and not even a fire inside it. The man searched high and low for his wife and three daughters. He realized that he would go hungry, so he went up to the attic to fetch the pork pudding to eat for his supper. But when the man got up into the attic and tried to cut the round pork pudding down, it shouted at him like it had at the others, "You won't eat me, I'll eat you first." And without any ado, the pork pudding ate the man up. By now, the heavy pork pudding was so weighty that the string could no longer hold it. It fell from the beam, rolled down the ladder, onto the porch, and out into the garden. The little house was on a big hill, so the gigantic pork pudding rolled all the way down the street. The local folks were just coming back from the fields, and the massive pork pudding ate them all up. The roly-poly pork pudding met a herd of pigs at the edge of the village, being led by a swineherd eating bacon with a pocket knife. The preposterously large pork pudding ate all the pigs up, and then the swineherd too. But the pocket knife was open, and the swineherd cut his way out of the pork pudding, and everybody followed him out into the sunshine. If that pork pudding had not split as it did, my story would have never ended.